Thank you, sir. Good evening or welcome to what I would call our special call almost meeting, because we're moving it from Thursday night to Tuesday night because we have to lay the levy. This is our regular council meeting. We're going to start with our invocation, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would, please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all the blessings you have given us. We thank you for providing us the opportunity to serve the citizens of Elkins. We ask that you guide us in our decision-making as we strive to help our community grow. We also ask that you watch over and guide our country's leaders. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now call the council meeting to order and ask our clerk to take roll, please.
Councilor Bross Friganera. Councilor Carroll. Absent. Councilor Chenoweth. Here. Councilor Hinchman.
Here.
Councilor Kearns.
Here.
Councilor Lowther. Absent. Councilor Parker.
Here.
Councilor Pliszka. Here. Councilor Severino.
Here.
And Councilor Thompson.
Here.
8 present. You have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone here for public comment tonight? If not, we will move down to the minutes portion, and I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the April 4th, 2024 meeting. We have a motion. Any questions or comments? Okay. Is your microphone on, sir? Thank you.
Yeah, XYZ moved approval. Yeah, that's, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're going to move the agenda around a little bit tonight because we have some people that are traveling a long distance to be here. So we're actually going to jump down to I, the attorney consultation on the Whitmer water system. So gentlemen, if you want to come up and talk at the mic. And welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Bob Rodecker. I'm from the firm of K. Casto and Cheney in Charleston, and I've been working on behalf of the city with regard to the acquisition of the Whitmer Water Association. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and would like to answer any questions that folks have. And Mayor, I appreciate your moving us up to the head of the agenda.
Yes, sir.
It's always good to get your high-paid talent out of here as quickly as you can.
I think you're headliner material. Come on now.
So, just to give you a little background on this, I've asked that Sutton, I don't know whether they had a chance to distribute one sheet of items that address the issues that I think are probably on the council members' minds. The timing and where we've been and where things are going. On May 25th of last year, the PSC entered an order finding that the Whitmer Water Association is a distressed utility and ordered Elkins to acquire the assets and take over service to the customers. Counsel for Elkins prepared documents that would enable Whitmer to be resurrected in order to execute documents and to transfer the system to Elkins. Those documents were executed by Whitmer on the same day. It happened to be on the same day as the PSC order came out. Now, when I say it was resurrected, in 2015, Whitmer ceased to have any legal standing as a entity in the state of West Virginia. The Secretary of State's office had withdrawn their authority to do business. And so in order for them to transfer their assets as required by the PSC, they had to elect a new president. They had to have a plan of action as to how they were going to come in and wind down their responsibilities in their business activity, and then ultimately have authority to transfer the facilities to Elkins. And so that was all done by our firm, and Elkins, of course, is paying for that. Then on July 13th of last year, Whitmer and Elkins filed a joint petition with the PSC for approval of an interim operating agreement, an asset purchase agreement, and the establishment of rates for Whitmer's customers to pay to Elkins pending transfer. In those agreements, we proposed that the amount of money contributed to the city by Whitmer would be $9,000 a month. As we go along, you'll see it didn't turn out that way. On September 13th, the PSC approved interim rates for Whitmer, which would be the same rates as Elkins charges to all of its other customers, and approved a modified interim operating agreement. The Whitmer, in January 9th of this year, Whitmer and Elkins filed the signed interim operating agreement. That's because the length of time from September to January was basically taken up by the fact that you couldn't get people together in Whitmer to execute necessary documents to enable those rates to go into effect and for the operating agreement to go to the PSC. February 1st, the PSC approved the interim rates as final rates and required Elkins and Whitmer to close on the asset purchase agreement within 30 days. Obviously, we haven't closed on that, and 30 days have expired. The problems that we are facing with that have to do with some of the issues we're going to address in the next few steps. Prior to commencing operations of Whitmer pursuant to the interim operating agreement, Elkins had to pay Mon Power in excess of $9,000 in order to prevent power from being terminated. So that was $9,000 out of Elkins' pocket that was not being paid for by anything from Whitmer. March 5th, Whitmer received an assessment from the state tax department for $6,916.21 for unpaid withholding taxes. That was for a period of time prior to the end of last year. And so it was prior to the order by the commission, and it was also prior to any revenue coming into Elkins associated with the Whitmer obligation. Since January of 24 and the end of March, expenses from Whitmer have averaged nearly $12,000 a month, and revenues have averaged less than $4,000 per month. My firm, K. Castone Cheney, is in the process of preparing a petition to the Commission, to the PSC, for approval of funding under the Distressed Utilities Act, and an application for funding with WDA for those funds must be filed by June 30th, 2024. And John will have more to say about that, but at the present time, that's the status of where we are. We can't close until that lien, if you will, or the state tax lien of $6,900 is eliminated, and we don't have the funding from any state source at the present time to enable the closing to take place. So, John, you want to add anything?
Sure. Good evening. I'm John Stump with Steptoe & Johnson. We've been the city's bond counsel, at least for the last 30 years that I've been with the firm. Bob gave a great overview of where things are right now. I'll add a few things. First of all, there's a state tax lien. No federal tax liens have been filed yet. It does raise the question, though, that if you weren't paying your withholding taxes to the state, were they being paid to the feds? And we just don't know. And one of the joys of dealing with the state tax department and the IRS is if you touch it, you own it. So if we suddenly start inquiring about, it requires you to get authority from Whitmer to make the inquiries. So if you start making the inquiries on behalf of Whitmer, you own the problem. So not paying withholding taxes is one of the things that the IRS and the state tax department frown on the most. So it is a very significant issue that we are hoping to find funding through the distressed utilities pot of money. Part of the process of acquiring Whitmer also will involve the city assuming Whitmer's outstanding water revenue bonds. In the scheme of things, it's not a ton of money. It's $220,000, roughly, a little less than that, outstanding right now. It has a 40-year term at a 0% interest rate, so the payment's $1,200 to $1,400 a month. But that is something we'll be coming back to City Council. It'll require an ordinance process, and one of the things we're going to add to the petition that Bob referenced is, well, we want the state to pony up the cash necessary to pay my expenses, his expenses relative to the ongoing process. I think one of the more overall questions that a lot of folks may have, or maybe not, is, well, why did the city lean into this and take a proactive approach rather than fighting? And part of that decision, I believe, was based certainly upon my recommendation. I believe Bob's recommendation that the Public Service Commission would force the city to take Whitmer regardless of what the city did. So your choices were to fight and lose, spend a bunch of money fighting, or lean into it and be proactive. And I asked Sutton to hand out a very voluminous recommended decision from the Public Service Commission. Now, this is not, the situation here is different. You're much further along in the process. But this is an example of what the PSC is doing. Public Service Commission is, there's a 25-person sewer system in Wayne County that is in complete and total disrepair, and the fix is $3 to $4 million for 25 people. In this recommended decision, the administrative law judge orders that the city of Huntington shall take over that utility and become responsible for that utility. Now, that's over. The Huntington Sanitary Board fought this all the way through and is going to continue to fight it. But this is an example. I wanted to share with everybody that this is what is happening. So Elkins is special, but not unique. Okay? This is what we're dealing with. I know Bob deals with a lot more of this than I do, but PSC will step in and force small broken utilities on larger utilities. So that's really all I had to offer as far as points I wanted to be sure to make. But Bob and I are obviously happy to answer any questions whatsoever. It's a fairly novel situation. This hasn't been going on for a whole lot of years. When did the bill pass? 18?
No, I don't remember the year, but I think it was about 4 years ago.
Okay, so this is something that's been going on 4 or 5 years now. So we're all learning somewhat how to deal with it. For example, the distressed utilities money that Bob referenced no one's ever applied for it. It's never been used. Now, we're applying for it, but no one's ever done that. So anyway, we're happy. Mayor and Jerry, I don't know if you had specific things you wanted us to, anything other specifically you wanted us to address, or we can just open it up however you all want to handle it.
Well, I'll
Let's
let
open for
council go.
questions, yeah.
Yeah, I'll let council go first. There are a couple things I wanted to be sure if it doesn't get asked by council that it is clear to council and the public because this is being streamed live. But I'm sure council has questions. We've done our best to answer them. I think I told you all that, but I was really happy that you all said you could be here this evening. I think it's very, very helpful for everybody.
I have just a quick question. Do we have a total amount that you guys are requesting regarding?
Still, from the distressed utilities?
Yeah.
We're still working on that. And the amount we're gonna request is gonna operate under the idea.
Can you go to the microphone, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank
We're
you.
still coming up with that number, but the overall amount we're gonna request, I think will operate under the theory of, if you don't ask, you won't get it.
Right.
So we're gonna file the biggest number we can come up with, because they won't give us enough to pay off the bond issue. We know they won't do that.
Okay.
So, and the reason is because if they pay off one bond issue that way, everybody will want theirs paid off.
Yeah. Because I'm appreciative of that, you're going for everything we can, because I just hate the fact that essentially residents of Elkins we're subsidizing a completely different municipality when our water rates are what they are, and we could, be putting money back into Elkins. So thank you for that. I'm glad that we're going for the biggest amount.
And we have asked several times about, bond relief, and there's just no money out there for that, unfortunately.
I think Mr. Stump said that you would come back, or city council would have to pass an ordinance approving something. What is that?
Well, in order for the city to borrow debt that's secured by the water system, which you're assuming the bonds of Whitmer, but in essence, you're issuing a new bond and paying that off, but it'll have the same terms. That's done through an ordinance process, requires 3 readings of an ordinance by city council to approve the new bond issue, again, to refinance the debt of Whitmer into the name of Elkins.
So the city is sort of, I guess, forced into going through this process. So I guess what's the purpose of us passing an ordinance if we really don't have any say in anything anyway?
Well,
I think legally we have to in order to take
Yeah.
over the bond.
But what if we don't, I guess?
that's a fascinating question. It is. So I'm going to let Bob answer that. And I'm sorry to not be formal, but I had foot surgery at Labor Day, so I'm going to sit down right there if you want all time.
You can also use that microphone if you need to, Don. Yes.
Could you repeat the question that I didn't respond to?
Oh, yeah, I'm just inquiring as to, I guess, why do we have to go through an ordinance process to approve something that we don't have any say in, and we've been ordered to do anyway?
Well, the answer is because you've been ordered to do it, and if you don't comply with the Public Service Commission order, then you violated an order and therefore subject to potential penalties for not having done so. They're going to be lenient with this for the length of time that it will take to carry out their order, as long as we keep them informed, which we have. But as far as avoiding that, I'm not aware of a way that you can do it without cost to the city, and ultimately you're going to have to comply anyway. And I'll acknowledge, as John said, it was my advice that the city go ahead and agree to this rather than fight it, unlike the Huntington Sanitary Board situation in the Hubbard Heights order that John circulated today. That was a similar situation, and the handwriting was on the wall from the time that it was filed. My firm represented 2 of the small utilities that were potentially capable proximate utilities in the same role that Elkins was in for Whitmer. And so the commission decided that among all of the potential proximate utilities, which included the Huntington Sanitary Board, the town of Canova, the town of Cerrito, Northern Wayne County Public Service District, and West Virginia American Water Company, the commission decided that they would award the gift of Hubbard Heights to the largest sewer utility that was there, and that was Huntington Sanitary Board. Now, I'm sure they'll fight it, and they're well represented, and they'll do everything they can to try to get out from under that. But one of the reasons that I recommended what I did was that I did not think the cost of fighting it was worth the battle. I've been doing this longer than I care to admit, and have had many cases at the Supreme Court involving the Public Service Commission. And I finally won one last year, and the only reason I did was because they made a mistake. If the court sees that it has Public Service Commission on it, it's almost a rubber stamp. And unless they have totally misinterpreted the law or made a mistake in their interpretation of the law, reality is they're not going to interfere with it. Here you've got a statute that's never been challenged before. They've got these folks that are not getting any sewer service, and basically they're in violation of federal law as well as state law for discharges into the stream. And so the way that the commission is resolving that is under this statute to require the largest sewer utility in the area to take it over.
Well, and Bob, per many of the conversations we had, this was a way for us to stay in the good graces of the PSC. Because moving forward, we're going to have projects where we need funding from the PSC, and we want to have their support. So if you burn this bridge now, there's no going back. That was kind of the conversation we had. That's just the blunt reality of it.
Does the city have the capability of imposing a higher fee on Whitmer residents so they'll carry the burden of their own expense that's been created?
Yes and no. And I'm not trying to avoid your question. The answer is that once the transfer takes place, the city is exempt by statute from PSC jurisdiction over the setting of rates for its customers. And so it can do what it feels is reasonable to do in order to serve its customers. And if they separate out the Whitmer customers, and they're approximately 90, 94, is that right, Wes? And if they have, right now, they're not all paying their bills. They have the capacity, some of them, to go offline entirely and just use well service. They're not obligated by any statutory requirement to take water service. They are obligated to take sewer service if it's provided in there, but not water. So you run the risk, if you get the rate too high, they're just going to go offline, and you're not going to even get what you're getting today. So those are the things you have to go into the matrix, if you will, of figuring out how to spread the cost. And that's still a ways down the road. That's another step quite a bit later.
Any other questions?
Yes, I had, when you had referenced there was a bill passed in 2018 regarding these type of situations, is that what the bill sort of addressed, the idea that smaller communities are having trouble fixing whatever problems and we're going to ask other municipalities to take it over? What was that bill that sort of changed things in 2018?
It was the Distressed Utilities Act.
And nobody has applied for funds from this distressed utilities?
I'm not
fund?
sure they've formally applied. They do have orders for at least two entities that I've been involved with have gotten guarantees for $5 million in 1 year and $5 million in the next year, fiscal year. And that fiscal year will basically, one day it'll be 2024, and the next day 2025 fiscal years. And that's all for one project. But there are two utilities that are applying for those funds. So they're ahead of Elkins on this in terms of getting applications in.
And you had said that y'all are going to be applying, you haven't set the amount yet, to this fund to help us with this situation. Did I understand that correctly? That's what you
Yes.
guys are going to do. And in that request, that will include the lawyer fees as well?
Yes.
Okay. And then was the basis of this bill, it sort of irritates me that it has taken away the responsibility of the state, just because I continue to hear there's such a huge budget surplus, and yet we are forcing cities, municipalities to take on the burden of so many issues that they should be taking care of. I will just leave it at that. But it does seem, that's why I was asking about that 2018 bill, if that sort of was the rationale, if you know, to sort of take the onus off of the state. I guess they created this fund to theoretically help these other municipalities that are taking on the burden.
Well, I don't think we can ask them to assume they knew what was in the hearts or minds of the people making these decisions, to be honest with you. So,
That's true.
Well, let me answer that as best I can. First of all, the amount of money in the fund is woefully inadequate for the needs that have been shown to have, by virtue of the fact that one project for one utility can wipe out the whole thing for every
2 fiscal
every
years.
other system each year, $5 million. And so you've got little systems like Whitmer, and I also represent the town of Harmon. Town of Harmon was ordered, believe it or not, town of Harmon was ordered to take over a utility, and that utility was the Bessenger Mobile Home Park. And the Bessenger Mobile Home Park had 8 customers who didn't pay their bills. There was one customer that pays its bill. And they were ordered to acquire the water utility assets. When I say they, Harmon was required to acquire, and that was 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And in order to acquire them, they're going to have to condemn the property. We have not been able to come up with a resolution of it. That's money they don't have. Now, I will tell you this, and I would encourage you, if you can, I think most of you know, if you don't know him personally, you know who he is, and Mark Scott is former councilman here and former commissioner on the Randolph County Commission, who is the head of administration for the state, and he's a secretary, a cabinet secretary in the Justice Administration. He may be able to help on this. I can't say that, but someone should be in touch with him as well, because he's already interested in the Harmon situation. So given the fact that whatever funds are there or aren't there, you won't know until you ask for them. And so that's why we're working to get this this petition fine-tuned and get it before the PSC, and then go to request the funds.
Jerry, did you have anything to add?
Just a couple of things, if you don't mind, Bob. I want to make sure everyone understands this. When you contacted me in January of 2023 and sent me the order from the Public Service Commission that said do you all, the city, know anything about this? Which was the original order requiring the city of Elkins, Huttonsville PSD, Midland PSD, and the town of Harmon to respond to it, saying who would be the proximate capable utility. And I remember my answer was, I have no idea what you're talking about. Never saw it, never heard of it. And we had a discussion, as you've already reiterated. I was like, my first question was, we don't even know about this. We're not really a party to it. And can this eventually be forced on the city? Because I looked at the other utilities and I thought, if I were looking at least the most capable one, we may not have been the proximate one, but we were clearly the capable one to take it over. And you said just what we've all talked about earlier, both you and John, about, doing that. So the city never filed that petition. And I don't want to misquote the law that we've been discussing here about distressed and failing utilities, but it gives the option of any entities can file the request for the petition, including the utility itself, which I think is what John said earlier that this HOA did in the Wayne County. But the Public Service Commission can do that themselves, correct? File a petition to have a determination whether the utility is distressed and failing and go through that process, correct?
Arguably, they could. They haven't yet.
They haven't done that.
Yeah.
But who actually filed this? I mean, because I remember when we got it, I'm like, where did this come?
In this case,
Yeah,
the county commission.
okay.
The county commission filed a letter to the PSC and requested that a distressed utility proceeding be established for Whitmer.
For Whitmer, okay. And then pursuant to that is why the order that got sent out that your firm saw in January, which addressed the city of Elkins too.
Yeah,
So from then on, we've been part of this,
Right.
like it or not.
right.
Yeah. One other thing, we've talked about funding here. With the help of Region 7, we got that critical needs funding, and that has all been expended, I believe. Wes could, I'm sure he's shaking his head.
And that was $151,000, correct, Wes?
Yeah. That kind of got over the hump with some of these things and
Well,
whatever.
it stabilized the system over in Whitmer's what it actually
Right.
did. So, yeah,
They
were
had
just-
no one really at that time, an operator. I mean, they had volunteers, but that's when the city got involved and actually started sending people over to take care of those things. Is that your understanding too?
Yes, it is,
Yeah. So I think that's it. Just want to make sure, I know a lot of people in this room know that, but for the sake of the public that may not know some of these things, I just want to be sure that the city of Elkins is not trying to be some utility empire, that's a good word, no. And I'm going to doubt that Huntington was looking forward to this situation they now find themselves in either.
No.
But every public utility is regulated by the Public Service Commission. We are subject to their rules, their regulations, and this all emanates from my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the West Virginia Rural Water Association was a big proponent of this legislation. Is that a correct statement, or they were involved in getting it moved along?
No, I wouldn't put it in those terms. The Rural Water Association, and I'm counsel for the Rural Water Association too. And-
Well, that's good. You can answer this question that I've had.
Well, I was involved in the process of both Senate Bill 234, which was definitely the Rural Water Association bill, that it wanted to have regulation changes made at the PSC, and they were. There were, however, some areas where it needed to be shored up after it had gone through the process, and so in subsequent years, and that was adopted, that was enacted in 2015. Later, we went back to get some changes made, which did not address distressed utilities.
Okay.
And in order to get the commission to support our bill, the Rural Water Association had to agree to support their bill,
Which was
is
this
the
distressed utility?
Act. And I was in the room where it happened. I don't know whether anybody's familiar with Hamilton or not, but I was in the room where it happened, and there were a lot of interested parties in this legislation, but none of them, to my knowledge, other than one, which is the largest water utility in the state, was quite supportive of it.
And not to belabor the point, this is a statewide problem.
Correct.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not just here.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a couple. When will we hear, once the application is filed, are there timeframes on that? Like, when we'll know a response?
This petition we're going to be filing for the funding, well, we're going to ask that we get an order as early as possible because we believe we have a deadline of June the 30th. And so that's to get an application in for funding with the WDA, I think, which administers the funds for the Distress Utilities Act.
And then I think people are curious how Whitmer and some of these others actually got started, as based upon the revenue estimates for these projects, how they were approved and started, if you know that.
Well, John may know more about how they got started, but it was in approximately 2010, I think, maybe a little earlier than that. They were just an association that was formed to try to get water service in the community of Whitmer. And in order to get funding, they had to form this association. And so they got the funding, and the project was put in, and people got water. After a few years of operation, people weren't paying their bills. They lost interest in it for whatever reason. They just didn't have the funds, and they didn't pay their bills. And so they stopped filing annual reports. You have to file an annual report with the Public Service Commission. You also have to file with the Secretary of State's office an annual report. And they didn't do any of those things. And so that's where they were in trouble. And then they had no more employees. They had volunteers who were volunteer operators of the system. And they were at the point where they were no longer willing to continue on. There were health problems in their one family, and another family that had a death, and it was just took a toll on the operators. And so I think that's what caused the request by the county commission to the PSC to have somebody take them over.
I think to that point, Whitmer is indicative of many small utilities across the state where people started the utility with the best of intentions. If you look in the southern part of the state, many of the utilities are old coal towns where the company actually owned the water system. And as time has gone on, the cost of operating a system, the sophistication required to operate a system, it increases every year. Simply finding operators is incredibly difficult. So when you look at a utility like the size of Whitmer or the size of Harmon, the cost of the audit each year is easily $50 a customer. So there are a number of factors. We are seeing this across the state. And the challenge is the funds that we're referencing, that we're applying for, there's $5 million a year that is allocated to that pot of funds. And on June 30th, that money, whatever's left in that pot, disappears. So it doesn't carry over. And as Bob alluded to, the funds that begin July 1, 2024, and the monies that begin July 1, 2025 have already been obligated to a project up in Newell, West Virginia. So we have to get our application in time to take advantage of the $5 million that's there until June 30, 2024. So that's the timing issue.
Is there any, when we look at trying to talk to our legislators, it seems to me that having only $5 million funding this pot is woefully underfunded. It's ridiculous. I know we just did our own survey of priorities in the city of Elkins, and one of the top things was the quality of our water was one of the top priorities. And for this state, which has a history of having water issues, it seems like we need to be really pushing to get that fund higher. When you look at other rural communities in other states, a lot of times they are able to get pockets of money either from the federal government for rural water initiatives. The state of West Virginia really needs to support that effort of bringing clean, safe water to communities. And the fact also that the PSC awarded this small town the ability to take care of itself, and like one of y'all said, through no fault of their own, were unable to fulfill the requirements that are necessary. And I think that's asking a lot of these really small communities. So the whole thing needs to be changed, obviously. And I wish you the best of luck. When we're asking for the part of that $5 million pot, when there's so many other communities that need the money as well.
Mr. Parker?
Thank you, sir. My best assessment is that these funds that you're applying for, if you are successful with that application, will cover part of the shortfall for a limited period of time, and most likely will not be a reliable source of funding to deal with the ongoing deficits of this system. That's untenable. Ain't gonna happen. I'm just telling you, that's untenable. That is bizarre. Our rate, this interim rate that we're charging the folks out there at Whitmer is the same as in the city of Elkins. Is there a reason why we chose to use that rate and not? Well, I guess that's part A, and then there will be a part B to that.
The answer to that question is very simple. We asked for $9,000 a month. The rates that are coming in now are producing less than $4,000 a month. We didn't choose that. That's what the commission ordered because they felt that it would constitute what's called rate shock to the residents of Whitmer to pay $9,000 a month for the operation and maintenance of their system. So that's another thing that you can appeal those decisions, but that's not going anywhere. So the answer is there was no choice. You had to take it.
Because it would seem to me that the rate is going to have to be higher. And even if we increase the rate by 100%, it would not close the gap. I don't know economically what the community out there can really be expected to bear. And I think that we have got to be thinking about that. You know, what can they actually bear realistically? What's the gap going to be between income and expense? And where is that going to come from over some indefinite number of years? Because I just don't see West Virginia American Water saying, oh, please, sell us the Whitmer system. I have a feeling that's not going to happen.
Councilor Parker.
This basically...
Can I add something to just what you said there? One thing that we've already seen with the rate increase is that we've had one customer say, I'm not going to pay the rate increase, I'm cutting off the city water, I'll use my well water. And that is perfectly legal, am I correct?
Yes.
So that's the problem that we will potentially could see with increased rates, that more people will just go with their well water, and that's legal, that's unfortunately.
Thank you, Tracy. I know you had shared with me the information that a number of the customers out there who were on the water system also have a well.
Correct.
And that made for a somewhat difficult scenario. Now, do I understand that this transfer has not then been concluded at this point? Is that right?
The transfer has not been completed.
You say it has?
Has not.
It's not, right. That's what I thought, because this is essentially an acquisition. I mean, we can call it whatever we want, but it's the city acquiring that system.
Correct. That's exactly right.
And, yeah, what would happen if when that comes to city council, and I'm really not doing this just to grandstand, I mean, I'm very, very serious. If council said, I'm sorry, we can't approve this, it is not in any way in the best interest of our city.
I think that goes back to the same question the other councilman asked earlier. If you don't you have any say in this? And I believe that was the question. Don't you have any say in this? And the answer is essentially no, you don't. You can do that. You can try not to go along with the order, but ultimately you expose yourself. When I say yourself, actually it's the city, to the penalties associated with noncompliance with the commission order. And, you know, it probably happened before in other instances, but it hasn't happened that I've been involved with, so I can't tell you the amounts of the penalty or the likelihood of that occurring and whether there's a personal liability that attaches to that. I don't know. I will tell you this about the Whitmer debt owed to the state, and in that case, they're going after, the state is going after Paula Teeter to pay $2,900, something to that effect.
Thank you.
So, just to follow up on that, Dave, the acquisition is you get their assets and their liabilities. That's the deal. And you've been ordered, there's been an order from the Public Service Commission about that. It is an order that you can, as Bob's pointed out, you can be fined for not following it because the city of Elkins is a regulated utility under the Public Service Commission, and if you fail to comply with an order from them, and if you remember, last April, the administrative law judge had a hearing here, and I think some people in this room were at the hearing. He then made a recommendation, which eventually, as Bob has pointed out, got accepted by the Public Service Commission. And at that point in time, that's where you were with it. I mean, it was, it was a done deal as far as, other than opposing it and doing whatever, but after consultation with these two gentlemen and looking at what your options were, you sometimes have to pick your battles. And costing money, well, I mean, where does the money make the most sense? And what makes the most sense in the long run about it? I totally agree that seems like there's some serious inequities in this, but it is what we are regulated by this commission, the city of Elkins, having utilities.
Has anybody run a projection as to what the deficit at Whitmer is going to be over the next 5 years, so that we can, in fact, look at that in relation to our city budget, number one?
Well, it's going to have to come out of that, the enterprise fund. That enterprise fund's where it's going to have to come from. The water system enterprise fund is what I mean. It's going to have to come from there. And I think, one of the unfortunate things is, as Bob pointed out, it really took until the end of last year to get information about what their financial situation really was. We did not know. And to the treasurer's office staff and credit, and particularly Tracy and of course Wes, getting all this together, we didn't know what we were facing. I mean, we really had no idea. I think the most we knew is how many customers approximately they had. That's it.
Yeah.
We had never seen a bill. The city did not realize that people were using well water and using just a few hundred gallons of the water that the system produced. We didn't know that. That was not, something. We didn't know people weren't paying bills. We didn't know there were outstanding debts like the power company. We didn't know any of that.
And Jerry, understand, I'm not being critical of our people who have had to be involved in this. That's not
Understood.
my
No,
point at
I
all.
don't take it that way. I'm just making sure you understand that the city was at a real disadvantage, let alone the two gentlemen that have come to explain some things. Everybody was at a disadvantage because we just didn't know. And there was not an actual viable organization over there operating. So it was really hard. They didn't have employees. They didn't have records. It was just, we just didn't know. Now we have better information, and we continue to get information, but that's been an ongoing process. And the question is, as Bob's pointed out, the reason that, we asked for more money than, and looking at the rates, that's what the Public Service Commission decided. So we're kind of stuck with it.
Well, just, sort of at a philosophical level, this puts us in a bind. Well, ethically, we're being told essentially that we have to vote for something in favor of something that is going to operate to the detriment of the city.
I understand what you're saying. And of course, it takes a majority of council to pass any ordinance. You know that as well as anybody else in this room. So that'll be a decision made by the 10 members of council.
Well, I think, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments tonight?
I was just reading the bill, and I know it's kind of written a little ambiguous and vague, but it mentions that up to 100% of the cost of the failing utility repairs, replacements, and improvements can be recovered. Of course, up to. Is there any mechanism, that we could maybe, it obviously doesn't include the bond, but is there an avenue, I'm looking through here, but I don't see anything, is there an avenue to appeal if they say, we request this amount, X amount, and they come back and give us a significantly lower amount? Is there an appeals process to appeal, okay, this is our proof, this is what we spent, this is creating an undue burden to the citizens of Elkins to satisfy this requirement that we have no say in?
Yes, you can appeal a PSC order, but that's only part of the process. You've also got to go to the WDA and get their approval of the funds, out of whatever funds they have. And I'm not aware of an appeal process from the WDA.
There isn't. It's the West Virginia Water Development Authority is who we're referring to as the WDA. The mayor and I sat down and met with the executive director back during the municipal league, and they're very sympathetic to the situation. So I think they will help the city as much as possible within the confines of the statute, which is capital improvements, et cetera. But it doesn't address, Councilman, you're correct. There's not even 100 customers. So how do you cover just operation and maintenance expenses? And there's no mechanism under state law to subsidize operation and maintenance expenses on an ongoing basis.
Any other questions or comments? If none, Bob and John, thank you so much for your time. Safe travels back. I appreciate it.
Thank you all. And could I just take a second? I just want to congratulate Tracy and Wes and Jerry for keeping on top of this as much as they can. They're just wonderful people to work with, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a presentation from folks from Vandalia. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you. Let me get this.
This will be a little more positive news, right?
Yeah, more positive. Yeah, we're not asking for any, no bad news anyway. All right. All right, here we go. Oh, sorry about that. So that's gonna- All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is A.J. Hammond. I'm with Vandalia Health. I'm happy to be here tonight. I'm joined by Vance Jackson, who you all well know. He's the president and CEO of Davis Health Systems here. He's an active member in the community for some time. He's going to be available here just in a moment to give a few updates or field questions about what's going on at Davis now. But we really wanted to take the time tonight to introduce ourselves as Vandalia Health, as we're new to the area and new to the state, really. So back in 2022, the Charleston Area Medical Center, which serves the southern part of the state, joined with Mon Health Medical Center, North Central West Virginia, to form Vandalia Health as a statewide health system focused on providing quality of care, quality health care close to home at an affordable price. We continued to grow. We brought in a few additional hospitals, Grafton City Hospital, Minnie Hamilton Hospital, Highlands Clarksburg Hospital, just to name a few, and began conversations with the team here at Davis, and we realized that we share a lot of those same core values, a lot of the same mission and goals, and it was a natural fit to work together and bring them into the Vandalia family. So with the addition of Davis, Vandalia Health has 17 hospitals. We have roughly 200 outpatient facilities across West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Southwest Virginia, and with north of 15,000 employees, we're the second largest non-governmental employer in the state of West Virginia. So that's something that we're very proud of. For our own internal organization's sake, we consider ourselves Vandalia North. That's Mon and Davis. Obviously, Vandalia South would be CAMC. All three of our systems are nationally recognized, highly accredited, which really should give all of our patients, all of the residents here in the area, great comfort and confidence in the quality of care that they would receive. Quality of life is paramount to us. It's as it is to you. It's why we're here tonight to introduce ourselves, saying that we want to be part of the team and work with you to improve quality of life here in Elkins, Randolph County, and across the state. Of course, offering so many jobs and being such a job provider is great quality of life enhancement, but so is our main task of providing excellent health care. One way that we do that is by constant improvement, and we're able to focus on research through our CAMC's Institute for Academic Medicine. We have over 300 active research studies going on currently with more than 20 residents or people in residency who will grow and learn and continue to serve the healthcare industry here in West Virginia. We also are very proud of Intermed Labs, which is out of Mon Health in Morgantown, which is really on the cutting edge of innovation and med tech and doing a lot of cool things in prosthetics. And we're the only lab or studio, rather, in the Appalachian region. So that's something that we take great pride in. It's something that we want the folks of West Virginia to take great pride in our service area. And again, just between the research and the development here at Intermed Labs, it's just another reason to be confident in the care that you'll receive at Vandalia. Another area that we take great pride in that allows us to to serve folks close to home, which is one of our primary concerns, is through telemedicine and mobile medical units. So folks don't have to travel anymore to Morgantown or Charleston or anywhere else to receive great care. Not that they weren't before, but for specific care. And so we're able to do that, and we're continuing to grow our telehealth and mobile medicine units. We're growing there. We're also growing our physical footprint as well with a small format hospital coming in Bridgeport. We just built one a year ago in Marion County, and now we're excited to bring one to Harrison County as well, which is continuing our ability to serve the healthcare across the state. Of course, Davis has always been a valuable member of the community. You see, 2022 giving nearly $2 million in charitable contributions. So I don't know if they could help with this water system. Vance might kick me here, but certainly always happy to be members of the community and active in the community. And as I said, being the second largest employer in the state of West Virginia, payroll just at Davis alone is $80 million. And so certainly active there. And that's not changing. None of those things are going to change with the addition of Vandalia. You see in the corner, and if you drive past the hospital, you'll notice on the signage that Davis is still Davis. It's going to continue to be Davis. Vandalia simply is that footnote to say that, hey, we're part of this larger family of health systems. So that's not changing. We really want to honor the historic significance of Davis and the folks that built that and stood that up and have spent their careers there. So we're happy to share that. Vance can talk a little bit more on some of the additional improvements in areas like even cardiology. I know yesterday or this week we announced the reaccreditation of the cardiology unit there, and we've been able to help grow that and expand that through some of the telemedicine areas as well. So we can talk more about that. But right now, and here's additional some of the new things that we can talk about. But the primary thing we're focusing on now is bringing everything under one roof from a health record standpoint, so that as folks are traveling here to Mon or CAMC or from those places here, no matter where you go in the system, your records are accessible and are able to talk to each other. So that's Vandalia. That's a quick overview of Vandalia. We're happy to take any questions. I don't know if Vance has anything in particular you want to add, but happy to take any questions and really, truly happy to be part of the community. We're excited to work alongside of you all, and if you need anything from us, please let us know.
Well, AJ, I appreciate you coming and presenting, and I absolutely love the name Davis Health Water System of Whitmer. I mean, I'm very fond. Yeah, it's got a nice ring to it.
We'll definitely take that back and give that some consideration. That's above our level.
You're welcome, Vance.
Well, and I think we'd be remiss in not acknowledging the fact that Mr. Jackson is a valuable member of the Municipal Planning Commission, and we appreciate his involvement and input with that. They always have a lot of work going, and for those that are members of that, I know they appreciate Mr. Jackson taking time from his other role to help with that.
Are there any questions for the folks from Vandalia?
Yes. What health records do you all use in Vandalia?
Health records, what types of?
For Vandalia?
Yeah. So the electronic health record has become probably the most important piece of equipment that a hospital system has anymore. So that was one of the reasons the board looked at Vandalia as a partner versus other opportunities for partnership with a larger system, because the electronic health record has become so huge, and it has become very sought after, the information that's contained in an electronic health record. Health records now have the ability to have a full record of your entire life, what kind of conditions you've had, what you've experienced, and begin to predict what are you at risk for. And so that's where healthcare hopes to save dollars in the future, is having systems that can understand what your health status is, what you're at risk for, and what we can preemptively do to avoid a serious health situation. So that's really how healthcare is evolving, and why you're seeing the consolidation, because it's the full process of care, from primary care all the way to intensive care, surgical specialty care. The more coordinated it is, the more waste you can take out of the system and lower the cost, because healthcare is almost 20% of GDP in the United States now. So, just 70 years ago, it was about 5% of GDP, rapid growth in a very short period of time. So that's really what we're going to a system called Cerner. Cerner and Epic are the two biggest systems in the United States for electronic health record. 30 years ago, there were a lot of little players out there fighting for that. Cerner and Epic seem to have captured the biggest part of the market, and everybody seems to be gravitating towards one of those two systems. Each controls about 30% of the market. So between the two of them, they've got 60% of the market, a little over 60%. So Vandalia uses Cerner. They have a kind of a hybrid individual version of Cerner. They're big enough that it has certain standard functions, but it has functions that were created by the clinical and IT staff in the Vandalia system. Our providers will be a part of those discussions as well. As healthcare evolves and changes, it'll be the clinicians who kind of help the electronic health record evolve and change as well. So I don't know if that's more than you wanted to hear, but it's a big subject for us.
Not familiar with all that.
Okay, very good.
Any other questions?
Yeah, with this merger or whatever, any positions been eliminated with Davis Health?
No, we got a lot of open positions if you're interested.
I'm good.
No positions. Well, the pandemic, that was one of the things that really had a huge impact on healthcare. The business during the pandemic was just overwhelming, the volumes that we had. As we've recovered from the pandemic, we've seen back more closer to pre-pandemic, but they're still higher than they were pre-pandemic, the volumes that we're seeing. I think there's a lot of leftover effects of many of the aspects of the pandemic. So no positions have been eliminated. No one's lost their job. No one was going to lose their job, because currently, for 2024, we're seeing our volumes increase a little bit. Traditionally, we have seen up until the pandemic nationally, hospital admissions, an actual acute admission to the hospital, was in steady decline for the last 30, 40 years. It has kind of plateaued, and actually for Davis Medical Center, it's gone up a little bit this year. So I don't know if that's going to be a stable trend, or it's just plateaued and it'll start declining again, because there is so much emphasis on outpatient care, and that's less costly care as well, which is why the payers like that more so than inpatient care.
Yeah. Have you any new services or specialties offered now or planned in the future?
Yeah, I would say one of the things, it's a very expensive service to offer, but one of the things that we're looking at, that Vandalia was one of the reasons the board wanted to partner with Vandalia. So our number one diagnosis in the emergency department, all three of our emergency departments, and we do a little over 33,000 ED visits a year in all three of our hospitals. The number one diagnosis is chest pain. Statistically, about 7% of those actually become an actual heart condition that needs intervention by specialized physicians. So we would like to have a interventional cath lab here at Davis Medical Center, because if you need that service, you have to go either south to Charleston or north to UHC or to Ruby. Those are the closest, what we call primary PCI capabilities, so that if you're having a heart attack, you get into the cath lab, and that blockage is cleared by an interventional cardiologist. So time is heart muscle, and so the closer we can get that type of service in the community, the faster the physicians can react to the need. And the same thing goes for, we're part of a stroke network, and we use certain capabilities that are non-surgical, but being connected to MON and especially CAMC, they have very sophisticated neurosurgical programs that we can participate in or be supported by. Not necessarily locally, but with quick transition.
Mm-hmm. Very good, thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll just ask one short one, I promise. I I used to work at Davis Medical Center, and one of the areas that I was working with, assisting with marketing, was the community health initiatives that were going on. And some of them were like smoking cessation, a lot of diabetes work and things like that. I didn't know, as you look at this community now, what some of the top priority community health issues that you have in your strategic plan to try to address.
Probably much of what you've just described. Diabetes is still has a major health impact on this region across the state. Anything related to lung disease is still. Dr. Abbas, who is with Mon Health System, is actually he is a thoracic surgeon who focuses primarily on lung disease. And he is going to start doing a clinic at our cancer center because he said we've got a lot of lung disease here, and he wants to be able to address that. We have a new medical oncologist coming this summer, so she'll be joining us. Diabetes, lung disease, COPD, heart failure is a focus, a big focus that we have right now. One of the reasons we're trying to work with Vandalia to improve our capability in the cardiology field. And those are probably the big three that always tend to be a big driver of poor health that we see very much in the emergency room.
Any other questions? Gentlemen, thank you. Once again, thank you for your patience tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, down to our council reports. We will start with Councilor Parker.
Yes, sir, just a couple things. First of all, please do put in your calendars. Next Tuesday, the 23rd, 6 o'clock here in council chamber, we will have the public meeting hosted by the task force. Want to bring everybody, maybe especially you all, but certainly everybody in the community, up to date on the progress that we've made in the work that we've been doing together. It has primarily focused at this point on dealing with substance abuse issues. And so we're moving on with that. And I don't want to fire all my guns now, but it's going to be a really good report. It's a very positive report. We are making measurable strides, and I think in the near future there will be even more excitement. So please do try to be there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Councilor Bros-Vaganera.
Tree board met today, and as you all noticed, we have the 4 downtown trees have been planted, 8 in Glendale. We are hoping to have all the naked trees that are in need of tree grates, get them the dirt and the mulch that they need before that project finally comes to an end. We'll be applying for a huge grant that has no match. That deadline is in May. That's it.
Thank you. Councilor Pliszka.
Okay. The Elkins Historic Landmarks Commission met today. They can officially say now that Maplewood Cemetery is designated as a historic landmark. So now they will be eligible for development grants and other benefits, which I've been following closely because I have a lot of family members in that cemetery, so that was really good news. And the next meeting for them is May 21st at 4 o'clock.
Thank you. Councilor Hinchman.
Yes, Finance met on the 8th, and we had discussions on Little Lake paving and also requests from D&E camera system. And we went over the budget of the landfill, which we'll be voting on tonight, and budget revisions, which we'll be voting on tonight. And we also went over the sanitation budget, we'll be voting on tonight.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Chenoweth.
Personnel Committee, I don't have a report.
Thank you. Councilor Kearns.
No report.
Thank you. Councilor Severino.
No report.
And Councilor Thompson.
No real report, but I'm very happy to see that the home on 2nd and Henry has been demolished. That's been since that building caught on fire. I'm glad to see that it's finally down.
That actually was not a city project, but yes,
Oh, really?
Yeah, the property owner did that himself.
Well, Even better.
Even better.
Even better.
Yeah, he had insurance that covered it, so.
Yes.
Even better.
Yes, but we're glad to see it go down as well, so thank you. Okay, staff reports. We'll start with Chief Bennett.
Good evening. I only have a few things to report tonight, so it's going to be very quick. We have selected the company that's going to implement the public safety camera system and notified them that they were awarded the project. So hopefully the wheels will be turning very quickly and we'll start to see cameras being hung very soon and have that system up and running. The only other thing I have is that our remote fielding for the in-vehicle cameras has been rescheduled for May the 28th. We're still waiting on one item per vehicle to come to have those done, so hopefully that comes and we can get everything installed in time and be able to do that fielding on that date and not have to push it back any farther. So that's all I have unless anybody has questions for me.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Kessiker. He's anxious. You're already up, ready to go. He's on deck.
Good evening. Very brief report. Last time I spoke, I explained that the boiler downstairs, the old furnace, we were going to set that separate from the HVAC bid, and do a bid on it for the demolition separately. It actually worked fairly well. We got a very competitive bid in on it, and the bid for the HVAC system was very competitive as well. In talking with Tracy, we are going to request to meet with the Finance Committee to talk about that and other options that may be out there when it comes to the HVAC project. But we were pleasantly surprised with the bid process. The only other thing I would like to report on is the sanitation garage project that has been undergoing for a long time prior to me coming on board with the city. We will be breaking ground on that structure within about 3 weeks. Very excited about that. So everybody's pleased with that. We will need to notify other entities as to our plans to move forward, as Jerry and I talked about. But it's really good to see these projects develop and come to light and see light at the end of the tunnel. So it's been yesterday was a long week, today was a long week.
Amen.
But we made it. So I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Judy.
All right, I don't have a lot either. Does anybody have any questions regarding the treasurer's report in the packet? All right, and if you have any questions regarding the landfill or sanitation budget for next year or the budget revisions, I'll be happy to answer those. Thank you.
Chief Himes.
Just a couple things. The new engine mounting is underway. Progress is being made. I spoke to the upfitter today. Requested no more photographs. The next time I see it, I want to be able to see it with my hands, not my eyes. And over the last few weeks, as previously reported, we were undergoing hose testing, and I'm happy to report that all 12,125 linear feet passed. So we didn't lose any hose this year. That doesn't always work out that way. So that's all I've got, unless anybody's got any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you. I was just going to mention that we had a visit with our account representative from Esri, which is the company that makes ArcGIS. So they were just checking in. I think there was a personnel change, so they just wanted to talk to us. But it was an informative meeting. We subscribe to various, we have an account with Esri for ArcGIS online, which includes all these different modules. And I think the most interesting thing was just to learn the range of things that we actually pay for that I didn't know we had. Some things that you don't think of with classic mapping applications. So most of our GIS work actually is contracted out to Region 7 when it gets into working in depth, but but I think some of this self-service stuff could help us get even more value out of that subscription. And I guess just to mention that open enrollment is rolling along. I believe it goes until May 15th. I actually sat with the AFLAC representative today, who's very helpful, and so that seems to be going well. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Ms. Roberts?
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report unless there are questions that come up when we address the new business. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, down to approval of the vendor invoice payments.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under new business, laying of the fiscal year 2025 levy, I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Ordinance 327, TIF Advisory Committee. This is the final reading. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1742, supplemental resolution providing parameters as to the principal amount, date, maturity date, interest rate, interest and principal, payment dates, and other terms of the sewer revenue bonds, Series 2024, bank qualified, of the City of Elkins, authorizing and approving the sale and delivery of such bond pursuant to a certificate of determinations and making other provisions as to the Series 2024 bonds. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
Thank you. I'm glad you didn't say repeat that. We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1747, adopting the Region 7 PDC Hazard Mitigation Plan update. I will entertain a motion to accept, please. We have a motion. Any questions or comments?
Yes, sir. Do I understand that this plan, this Region 7 plan that we're a part of, may, and that'd be the operative word, it may help us to qualify for funding at some point down the road, should that become available at the federal level?
Do you want to take that one, Sutton? I mean, I believe that is the way I understood that after an event.
I think it's a condition of continuing to participate in various programs like the National Flood Insurance Program, being eligible for disaster relief, things like that. I think it's just a plan that they want local jurisdictions to participate in that helps, among other things, catalog key facilities that would be needed, that would need replacement, and other community assets, detailing things that the local jurisdictions are doing to prevent or mitigate the impact of disasters. But I think the main thrust of it is this is just kind of an ongoing condition of participating in and being eligible for certain kinds of federal funding, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1748, adopting fiscal year 2025 landfill budget. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1749, adopting fiscal year 2025 sanitation budget. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1750, fiscal year 2024, general fund budget revision 8 and 9. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1751, lease for Fraternal Order of Police Lodge. I will entertain a motion to accept, please. We have a motion. Any questions or comments?
May I say something, Mayor?
Yes, absolutely.
So there is currently a lease with the FOP on where their building is on the flood control road. I'm sure you all have seen it. The city has renewed that lease at least one time. It's a 25-year lease, the one that's in place. It's about to expire this summer. And so we met with members of the representatives of the FOP, the mayor and I did, and this is the new lease that came as a result of that. One of the requirements that they, and they have met it, that we are an additional insured on their $1 million liability policy. They provided that deck page for the city, so they are in compliance with, and they've reviewed the lease and they're good with it too.
And they want to pay the $99 up front.
I think that's probably what they're going to do, Tracy. So we gave them that option. They could pay it. It was sort of crazy writing a dollar check year after year. So now I think they'll probably pay the $99.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion. Any other questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. And actually, I have no mayor's comments tonight. I know you're going to be disappointed, but